Hello everyone, welcome to Frontline Conversation. The term love jihad has heavily divided Indian society in last 2 decades. Hindu organizations and mainly RSS and its political affiliations have used this term to divide society to polarize it in Hindu versus Muslim way. Professor Samina Dalwai has written a very interesting book, Love Jihad, a feminist storytelling to see the things with a feminist interpretation. Today, Professor Dalwai has joined us for discussion on the book and also about the love jihad at a larger perspective. Professor Dalwai, welcome to Frontline and thanks for joining us.
Thank you
My
so
first
much.
question, as lots of writing is being done these days about love jihad, there are newspaper reports, there are articles, YouTube interviews, other forms of media being used to discuss the love jihad. Then why do you feel to write a book and that too with a feminist interpretation?
Amir, my own family is accused of love jihad. My father is Muslim and my mother is Hindu. The fact that they celebrated 52 years of their marriage doesn't matter to all these people who are calling them, traitors. Lot of trolling has happened over the years, especially last 15 years since this drama or propaganda started. The marriage is far older than that. And we were all raised in this socialist bubble. So it was not just Hindu, Muslim, but I have my sister in law is Chinese, so Buddhist. I have relatives who are from all states of India, many countries of the world, and most religions across the world. Yet, this narrow lens of love jihad now reaches our home and family. And hence, I wanted to tell the real story uh, of what interfaith family looks like. And I wanted to just say that it is like any other family, it's as normal as yours, but it's more unique than yours. And it's far more fun. And because you have all kinds of food, you have several languages, lots of jokes that happen because different types of people are put together. And there are several fights that generally tend to happen between husband and wife and parents and children, but none of them really concern religion. We don't fight on religion, but we always fight. Disagreements are part of a family life. um, and hence I wanted to tell the story of an interfaith family. I think the feminist lens comes because love jihad for the first time in Indian politics has brought the RSS or right wing hatred politics right into the intimate sphere. So we have had all kinds of things where we have had riots, we have had Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid, we have had bulldozers, we have had many things. But it has now entered the intimate relationships that we have. Now, this is a slogan that allows all these vigilantes to enter our homes, our bedrooms, our intimate relations, to check our phones, to check our friendships. And this has first time reached women like no other time before in history. Hence, the story of not the history I want to call the her story. The her story must be from the lens of feminism.
So, Professor, the fear of love jihad that is being spread is actually based on alleged population inversion. If Hindu girl married to Muslim man, then Muslim population will grow. This way the Muslim population will grow. So, you agree with this kind of propaganda, or what are your opinions about?
Firstly, I don't think numbers actually match because in our country, self choice marriage, what we call love marriage, is no more than 3%. That means 97% population marries with their mummy papa bringing a girl with dowry, and there is no choice for boy or girl. In the self choice marriages also, most marriages are within the familiar realm. You don't go to find a Muslim boy, Muslim girl, Hindu boy, Hindu girl if you're not actually familiar. So very few marriages, Very few matches are Hindu Muslim or Hindu Christian or Muslim Christian. It's not like Muslim families are waiting for Hindu girls to enter and to play out this whole love jihad drama. Nobody likes their children to marry outside. Everyone is opposed to that. That means that very minuscule population is ever able to manage or succeed in getting married and having children. When will the inversion happen? By the time 500 years later inversion happens, we will all be dead. Look at the global warming, how much it's raining now, how much May was killing us with heat. Bombay has gone in our lifetime from 25 to 38. Bangalore has gone from 22 to 37. Are we actually going to live a happy long life in this kind of thing? Pehle पेड़ काटना बंद करो, then go after all of this love jihad propaganda. The basic thing that is happening of terrible situation of environmental erosion is completely being disregarded in all of this mass propaganda on minuscule irrelevant issues. I also actually feel that, population was so far considered when we were growing up a problem. Everything came down to population problem. Why don't we have good roads? Population problem. Why do we have traffic? Population problem. And despite many demographers, despite our own Amartya Sen telling us that population is not a problem, teach skills, uh, give education, give health. If you have good demography, then teach this young population all the skills. He has written in India and China, he has written in Development as Freedom. All his writing tells us that population could be our strength if we actually put the effort in creating human capital. And we could be like any other Eastern economy, we could be like China. But no, we wanted our population, we want population, but we don't want to educate them. So why do we want population? Why is less population a problem? What will we do if we have more population? We have so much population. What are we doing with it? So why the population as a question or a problem? It's a no I mean, it makes no sense to me.
So, in a way, you're saying that the women's freedom in Indian society, which is already curtailed, so love jihad has become another tool of patriarchy, another tool of dominance, the political dominance.
Yes, that is what I'm trying to say, and that's why the feminist lens. I am saying in my chapter on being a Hindu woman that any Indian woman, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, when you at the birth of a daughter, how many people rejoice? They throw patakas, they distribute laddus. ऐसा कभी देखते हैं? How many girls get education which their to their heart's content, the kind of education that they want? How many daughters are rushed to hospital and not waited till the last moment? How many pregnant mothers get all that hemoglobin and vitamins that they must get? When it comes to property, how many women actually manage to, despite the laws 2005 across the country, we have full inheritance. For Hindu women, they became co-parsonary. That means in a Hindu joint family, a woman will at birth get the same property rights as the boy, as a son. But how many women actually manage to get it? In Maharashtra, we see that several women, most women, go and give to registry that they have given away their property, their land especially, to their brothers. In fact, when Dr. Ambedkar came with Hindu Code Bill, and he introduced several interesting things at that time. He said, let us give the right to divorce. Till then, there was no choice of divorce for a woman because shadi was marriage is a samskara in Hinduism, especially in Vedic religion. So lower caste could do kadi mode in Maharashtra, as we call it, but in the upper caste, you could not divorce a husband. It was for life, and it was also after his death. uh, he said, let's give right to women to divorce, along with the chance for daughters to own property. And you know what happened in the Constituent Assembly? All these old Brahmins came at him with so much aggression. They said, what will happen to our sons if daughters got property? And if a daughter got property, she also could divorce her husband. Marriage will collapse. Why will they stay with their husbands? Now, you think, why would a woman stay with her husband if she has property and if she can actually leave the husband? That means the idea of marriage was based on women's slavery, that they have no other option. Now, all of us have property, all of us earn our own money, we have the right to divorce, we still we live with our husbands because they behave themselves also. They don't think they are lords and master of the household. Otherwise, they will face the consequences. So, Dr. Ambedkar wanted this, but the kind of opposition that he got, then he had to resign, and then Nehruji had to actually break that Hindu code bill into four different acts, and that got passed then in piecemeal style. All of this history I'm saying because now the same people are saying women are going and increasing the enemy population. Women were the enemy, they are increasing the enemy
Exactly.
population.
So I would like to ask you about this also, because uh, we have seen in last few years that the support to the idea of or the term of love jihad has come from the women also. Many upper class, upper caste women are talking about this so-called love jihad theory. How do you see it?
Well, you see a lot of these modern liberated women on social media, especially. And I look at them and then I wonder, it's interesting, no? Because modern, you can look modern. You go to the parlor, you get your skin treated, you have a haircut, you can buy nice dresses. All of that is money. It's capitalism. It has nothing to do with modernity. That's a concept that is ideological. While money can buy you all of this modern look, these people in their mindset are stuck in the Peshwa times, the Maharashtra rule of Brahmin rule of the 18th century that Mahatma Phule was writing about, where women are tonsured when they became widows, and Mahars had to carry matka and jhadu to take off the remnants of their, ever their their walk or their spit has to be carried off with them. Now, if these women are stuck in that times, you can't help them. The point is, all of us women, including the ones who are against feminism, are able to say things, are able to write in Marathi, Sanskrit, English because Mahatma Phule, Jyotiba Phule, Savitribai Phule, Fatima Sheikh started a school for women. RSX did not start schools for women. They did not want any woman to be educated. So it was the Bahujan Mahatma, his wife, and the friend who's Muslim started this school, and across Maharashtra they worked to educate women. Now the women who got education, some went into revolutionary activities and some are in anti-revolutionary activities. We can't help that. You have all of this type, there is a book called Gendering Caste written by Uma Chakravarti, a historian in Delhi University, and she says that in Mandal Commission, immolation, self immolation was happening. That time a small thing everyone missed. Upper class girls, college girls, were standing with a placard that said, we do not want unemployed husbands. Now, what does that tell you? That they are not wanting to consider OBC men who will get these jobs as potential partners. They are not seeking jobs for themselves in the job market. What they are talking about is husbands that they have not met. They are 20-year-olds, they are 17-year-olds. They haven't met these husbands, but they are talking about, we do not want unemployed husbands. Now, that is counter revolution, counter feminism in a very strange way, that women who are going to colleges and universities are talking about husbands and their jobs and not their own jobs. So, I mean, all of this.
So in a way,
I think
you are trying to say that caste barriers are also there. So I want to ask you that you have written in introduction that Hindu lower class, lower caste women are already facing multiple injustice, and to hide that, love jihad theory is being pushed by RSS. So how do you see?
there are two things here. Ambedkar, again, going back to him, said that intermarriage is the only solvent of caste. And there are paras that we can cite. He did not believe that any other thing could solve this issue of caste. Not interdining, not temple entry. He changed religion later when he realized that temple entry is not going to help. He said, let's not go to God that does not want to meet you, and let us now change. But he truly believed that if people had the choice of choosing their own partner, and they made those choices based on character and liking rather than caste, class, etc., family, clan, then caste will disappear. So the choice of marriage partner is the main solvent of caste system. Now, currently in India, what is in my book also, I have said that Hindu women, Muslim men are made hyper visible in the love jihad propaganda. And what is currently trying to be invisibilized is the main elephant in the room, that is caste system. And the situation of Dalits is dire. At the lower level, where they are bonded labor on the farms, to the higher level where they are supposed to be professors in universities. Across board, we see that IITs kill Dalit students every year. Hospitals have cases of doctors committing suicide, and all of this we see like we see dowry deaths. We have no shame as a society. We look at all of these killings as if it's a normal thing that happens. And in this kind of thing, I think it's very easy. You want to keep Dalits oppressed. You have to create an enemy, and that's what happened. Mandal, when the OBC empowerment started, in a way, I mean, it had started, but OBCs came up to get into jobs and education, and the Rath Yatra started. Ram Janmabhoomi became an issue. So when you want Dalit Bahujans to stay oppressed, you create Muslim as the enemy. And that is currently every 20 years we have this drama. This is the newest one.
So, Professor, in a way, you are pointing the larger politics of patriarchy. So, I would like to ask you this last question: how do the feminist politics of love jihad, how do you see it?
First, as I said, the choice of marriage partner. But I also feel that women need not be constantly defining their identities through men. We don't have to love. If we don't want to love, it's fine. We can decide not to get married. We can create families which are of different kinds, which are Hindu Christian, Muslim Christian, etc., but also LGBT families where there are two fathers, two mothers. And that also should be acceptable across. We had, when I was growing in this socialist bubble in Bombay in 70s and 80s, reading Denish Chagoshti, the Denis that came from Russia. We had all kinds of matches. You know, my friends came from inter-religious, inter-caste unions, and it was a very normal to me, but very unique, as I said earlier, kind of a setup. And I believe a family that is like Fule's family that he spoke of, you know, Buddhamang, Dharave Sagana, that kind of a family which is mixed. LGBT I have added. But I also feel that women, it is this opportunity to say that we are not part of your game. We are not the carriers of your race, your izzat, your honor, your chip in this game and war that you play between races, between numbers. We are just going to be individuals, citizens, workers. Um, and that should be a feminist politics, not of love jihad but of love. So we don't have to, actually I think of also of uh, communal matters, of community matters. It's not just love or family matters that women are interested in. We are interested in what is happening with farm laws, what is happening with labor laws, how are people treated, how is global warming being treated by world leaders. So women are not constantly only thinking about children, husbands, and households and home and hearth. You know, Faiz Ahmad Faiz is शेर that says और भी गम है जमाने में मोहब्बत के सिवा. That also says राहतें और भी है वस्ल की राहत के सिवा. So that means that there are other things besides love. There are other solutions beside love. And I believe it, there are community. He meant to say that there is poverty, there is hunger, there is liberation, there is revolution. All of that we are concerned about. We are not just concerned about love. So I think the love jihad politics, which is revolutionary love jihad politics, a feminist, Bahujan intersectional feminist politics, speaks about a communitarian life. I think that would be my vision of it.
So, in a way, you are saying love jihad is a trap for Indian women, and to come out of it, Indian women will have to see the things at a larger perspective, other than or more than love. So, thank you so much, Professor Dalwai, for speaking to Frontline. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much.